Have you ever seen a frail creature, seemingly forgotten in the flow of life, and suddenly felt that, deep in its eyes, there was an untold story? A story that could touch the hearts of millions? In a small corner of the cattle market in River Mist, Mira, a 12-year-old girl with bright but sad eyes, found a skinny, abandoned donkey. It, number 37, as the heartless traders called it, just lay flat in the dust, its eyes reflecting surrender. But to Mira, those eyes contained more than that: pain, helplessness, and a fragile ray of hope. Amidst the mocking laughter and cold rejections, Mira did something no one expected. She put all her little faith in that donkey. The journey home after the market was a challenging start. No one expected Mira, with her frail appearance and her life of deprivation, to change the fate of Rusty, the name she gave the donkey, as a confirmation that he was more than just number 37. But from the moment she placed her hand on Rusty's head and said, "We will overcome this," a strange, deep bond was formed between two seemingly lost souls. Their journey of healing and overcoming, arduous but also extremely miraculous, will open up lessons that not only Mira, but all of us need to hear. Rusty is not only saved, he becomes a symbol of patience, love, and trust. But what happened on that journey? What challenges await them ahead? Where did you find this story? Out of curiosity or out of some belief in yourself? Share it with us in the comments. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the special story we're telling tomorrow. A story that could change the way you look at life. It was dusk, the last light of the day casting a pale orange hue over the River Mist countryside, where the bustling livestock market was winding down. The shouts of bargaining, the clopping of horses' hooves, and the loud laughter of traders and visitors mingled with the sultry air. Mira stood silently at the edge of the auction house, her eyes focused on a single creature, a skinny little donkey lying flat on the dusty ground. The donkey, whom someone had given the dry name Number 37, did not move. Its light brown fur was matted, covering a body so thin that its ribs stood out like rotten wood. Its large, sad eyes held no light, only emptiness, weariness, and something akin to resignation to the world. All around, the livestock traders shook their heads disdainfully. "Just a useless donkey," a man scoffed, "not even strong enough to pull a cart." Mira heard, but she paid no attention. She walked slowly toward the stable, her small hands clutching the few coins in her pocket. From afar, her mother called out, warning that this was no place for a young girl. But Mira did not turn around. She did not know why she was drawn to this animal, only that its eyes that everyone else ignored, sparked something in her heart, a powerful urge that she could not ignore. As she got closer, Mira realized an uncanny resemblance between the donkey and herself. The scratches on its legs were similar to the wounds she had carried since her father left her forever. Number 37 was not just a weak animal, it was a reflection of what she had felt. Abandoned and forgotten, but also a glimmer of hope waiting to be saved. "What are you going to do with this?" another man asked with a smirk as Mira raised her hand to bid. "Take it home," Mira replied, her voice low but firm, "and give it a real name." Silence fell. Eyes turned to her, a small, skinny girl with an appearance not unlike the donkey. But no one expected Mira, with just a few coins and a strong will, to win the auction. When the manager handed the donkey to Mira, he only sighed, as if he were handing over a worthless object. But Mira didn't care. She knelt, gently placing her hand on the donkey's head, her eyes shining with determination. "From now on, I will be Rusty," Mira whispered. The donkey moved its ears, a tiny sign of life that made Mira smile. "We'll get through anything together. I promise." The sun had completely set, and Mira led Rusty out of the market in the darkness. Little did they know, the journey they had just begun would change their lives forever, not only saving Rusty, but also healing Mira's heart and lighting a glimmer of hope for those who had been forgotten by life. The walk from the cattle market to Mira's house was longer than usual. The pale moonlight fell on the trees along the road, casting a small shadow on the girl leading the skinny donkey, which was dragging its heavy steps. Rusty walked so slowly that at times Mira thought it would collapse on the rocky ground. But each time the donkey stopped, she would pat it, saying softly, "We're almost home, my friend. Don't give up." When they reached the farm, Mira's mother was waiting for them, her face filled with worry and a little anger. But when she saw Rusty, the anger gave way to pity. "Mira, you can't take care of an animal like this. He's too weak." Her mother stopped when she saw Mira's eyes, a look of determination she had never seen in a 12-year-old. "You can do it," Mira whispered. "You owe it to him." The first days were a challenge. Rusty refused to eat, just lying flat in the corner of the pasture behind the barn. Mira woke up early every morning, quietly bringing a bucket of water and some carrots. She didn't force Rusty, just sat next to him, talking softly. "I used to feel the same way," Mira confided one afternoon. "The day Dad left, I thought I was worthless. But Dad said, everything can change if you try, and I want you to believe that." Day by day, Mira's patience began to pay off. One morning, as Mira brought food as usual, Rusty suddenly walked over to her. She stood still, her heart pounding as the donkey timidly nibbled a carrot from her hand. A warm feeling welled up inside her, as if Mira had just walked through an invisible door into Rusty's confidence. From there, their journey truly began. Mira learned how to care for Rusty from old books and advice from her neighbor, Mr. Luis. She prepared a special diet, a blend of herbs and nutritious foods to help Rusty recover. Every day, she brushed the donkey with gentle strokes, both to remove the matted fur and to make him feel loved. But not all was well. One day, Mira took Rusty out into the open pasture to try walking. The donkey suddenly stopped, his eyes flashing with a strange fear. Rusty backed away, shaking his head, almost knocking Mira over. "Calm down, Rusty," she whispered, stepping back carefully so as not to frighten him further. In that moment, Mira understood that Rusty was not only battling physical weakness, but also ghosts from the past that she could not see. That night, Mira sat by the barn, watching Rusty from afar. "What have you been through, my friend?" she whispered in the quiet of the night. "I don't know what happened, but I promise you won't have to suffer alone anymore." Gradually, Mira began to change her approach. She spent more time just sitting quietly beside Rusty, letting him get used to her presence. She gave him small exercises, one step at a time, never forcing him. And every time Rusty succeeded, Mira praised him with gentle words and loving pats. Rusty, who had always bowed his head and endured, began to raise his head a little higher each day. One early morning, Mira took Rusty out to the wildflower field near the river. The early morning sunlight sparkled on the water, and for the first time, Mira heard Rusty neigh, small but full of life. She smiled, tears rolling down her cheeks. Not only was Rusty recovering, but he was also starting to believe in himself, thanks to Mira's patience and love. Their journey was long, but Mira knew they had overcome the hardest part, rebuilding trust from scratch. In the middle of the sunny field, Mira said softly, "I don't know where we're going, Rusty, but I know we're going together, and that's enough." Mira and Rusty's days passed peacefully, but trouble began to lurk in the places she least expected. One sunny afternoon, as Mira was grooming Rusty under an old tree in the field, a large black truck pulled up in front of the farm. Two men got out, neatly dressed, with an air of authority but coldness. The older man introduced himself as Mr. Doran, from an organization that organized endurance competitions and animal shows. He said in a smooth but scheming voice, "We've heard of this donkey, Rusty, right? He has great potential. With proper training, he could be a star in the competition." Mira looked at Rusty, who was still nibbling on the hay, unaware that he had become the center of attention. She shook her head, trying to keep her composure. "Rusty is not for competition. He is your friend, not a tool to be used." Mr. Doran smiled, but his smile was not pleasant. "Think again, little girl. This is a great opportunity, and we are paying handsomely." But Mira was unmoved. "Rusty does not want anything but a peaceful life. Thank you, but I refuse." Mr. Doran left, but Mira could not shake the uneasy feeling from the cold gaze he left. She tried to calm herself, telling herself that everything would be fine, but she did not know that this was only the beginning of a great storm. A few days later, when night fell, Mira was awakened by Rusty's panicked whinnying from the cage. She jumped up and ran downstairs in a panic. When she got there, Mira was stunned. The cage door was open, and a strange dark figure was trying to pull Rusty out. "Stop!" Mira shouted, but the stranger did not stop. Rusty struggled violently, her eyes filled with fear. Mira rushed at the man, grabbing his arm and trying to pull him away from Rusty. "Let go!" he shouted, but Mira did not let go. There was a brief struggle, and the man, surprised by her courage, eventually ran away, leaving Mira holding Rusty, gasping for breath in the dark. It was only when her mother's flashlight appeared that Mira realized her body was shaking. Her mother held her close, her voice filled with fear and worry. "Mira, are you okay?" "Rusty almost got caught," Mira whispered, tears streaming down her face. From that day on, the farm was no longer a safe place. Mira began rebuilding the barn door, installing new locks, and spent the afternoon placing obstacles around the donkey pen. But fear still weighed heavily on her mind. Someone wanted Rusty, and Mira knew she had to do something to protect her friend. She decided to go to her trusted neighbor, Mr. Luis. After hearing the story, Mr. Luis fell silent and then put his hand on Mira's shoulder. Maybe the only way to protect Rusty is to make him recognized. Mira frowned, not understanding. If you prove that Rusty is valuable in his own right, not as an asset to be exploited, but as a strong, independent being, then no one will be able to look down on him. The upcoming endurance competition at River Mist is your chance. Mira shook her head, feeling uneasy. "I don't want Rusty to be forced to prove anything." Not forced, but helped to prove. Rusty is not just a weak donkey anymore, Mira. He has overcome a lot, and now the world needs to know it. Mira thought for a long time. Deep down, she knew Mr. Luis was right. But the thought of letting Rusty enter a big competition made her nervous. Finally, she put her hand on Rusty's neck, looking deep into his eyes. "Only when you're ready, Rusty." I'll never let you do anything alone." In the days that followed, Mira and Rusty began to train. At first, it was just gentle exercises, step by step through the fields. Rusty, with patience and determination, learned to overcome obstacles, pull small carts, and balance through narrow paths. Mira noticed that every time she cheered, Rusty seemed to grow more confident and stronger. Every morning, under the rising sun, Mira and Rusty walked together through the fields, preparing for the big day at River Mist. Even though the challenges were increasingly difficult, Mira felt something deep. They were not just training for a competition, but also to affirm that anyone, no matter how forgotten, no matter how broken, could rise and shine. Somewhere in the darkness, danger still lurked. But Mira knows that with faith and love, they will overcome everything. And the River Mist Festival will not just be a playground, but a place where they demonstrate the miracle of patience and revival. The River Mist Festival took place in bright sunlight, with people laughing and talking loudly, and a tense atmosphere covering the large arena. Mira stood next to Rusty, her heart filled with emotions. The participants were all brave animals, strong horses, and strong donkeys with confident owners. But next to them, Rusty, the little donkey that had been forgotten, shone differently. As the competition began, Mira whispered in Rusty's ear, "We are ready. I believe in you, Rusty." The rounds passed one by one. Rusty, with his resilience and intelligence, overcame seemingly impossible obstacles. The cheers from the audience gradually rose as they witnessed Rusty's strong steps and precise jumps. In the final round, the most difficult challenge, Rusty suddenly stopped in front of a towering obstacle. Mira looked deep into the donkey's eyes. Those eyes no longer had fear, only faith. She stroked it gently, whispering, "You can do it. You always can." Rusty took a deep breath, then charged. All movement seemed to stop as the little donkey jumped over the highest hurdle. When he landed safely, the arena erupted in cheers. Rusty and Mira had not only won, but also touched the hearts of thousands. No one looked at Rusty as a weak animal anymore. He was now a symbol of strength, patience, and love. Mira hugged Rusty tightly as she accepted the trophy, tears glistening in the sunlight. "We did it, my friend. And from now on, no one will ignore you again." The story of Mira and Rusty is not only a journey of a girl and a donkey, but also a profound reminder that everyone deserves to be loved and given a chance, no matter how forgotten or undervalued they may be. Rusty proves that strength lies not in looks, but in resilience and faith. Mira shows us that sometimes, with just a compassionate heart and not giving up, you can change a life, and even your own. Thank you for listening to this story. If Mira and Rusty's story touches your heart, please like to spread the message of love. Share to inspire your loved ones, and don't forget to comment your inspirational quote. I believe in second chances because everyone deserves to shine. Together, we can make the world a place of love and hope.